the evolution of this JT in the red zone and how that dynamic worked? And how do you think it worked in the game?
You know, I thought it worked outstanding. I was really proud of both guys. You know, obviously it's not easy, but they're both great players, great friends, great competitors, and they all bring something. You know, they each bring something to the table. And I think Coach Meyer believes in both of them, as we all do, and felt like maybe there's some things that we can use their strengths and get them on the field to help our football team. Because ultimately, that's the goal. You know, help us win and keep this thing rolling.
Was there a sense at all that, geez, it's a shame that we have this guy who was 5th in the Heisman last year and the team leader and all that stuff, and he really doesn't have a significant role, and how can we get him involved?
Yeah, I think there's some of that. You know, I just think it was one of those situations we felt like he's a good player, and is there something he can do to help us contribute and help us win? And, you know, he just has a little different element than Cardell.
Coach, I get asked a lot about the play calling mechanics and how it works now. Coach seemed to allude a couple of weeks ago that you would be more involved or have a feel for what he wants. How does it go now?
You know, I'm learning. Obviously it's a progress or a process like everything else. And, you know, it's by committee, certainly. We have great coaches. Ed Warner, outstanding offense coordinator. And Ed and I have always worked well together, and we continue to do so. And all our suggestions between series, we get ideas, Zach Smith, Tim Hinton, Tony Alford, and Coach Meyer. And we kind of, hey, here's a good plan. This is what we want to do to try to attack them. And then we just go from there. So, you know, it's been interesting, to say the least. And like I said, I feel like I'm getting more comfortable and understanding things a lot better. And we seem to be operating a little bit more smoother.
With you being in the press box,
who pulls the trigger? I mean,
as far as what
makes the call?
Ultimately, right now, the voice is mine.
Okay.
Was that the original plan, or when did that change?
You know, I think it's something they've done here. I think through Tom, whoever the coach is in the press box. I don't know that it's anything to take away from any other coach. It's just I'm upstairs, I see things, I'm away from the crowd, the players, the noise. You don't get the emotion necessarily drawn into it as you do when you're down on the sidelines. You're in that solitary booth and you can think things through. You have the playlist right in front of you. And the suggestions, we write them down in between series, and I just verbalize it to them.
Tim, what did you see from the offense Saturday that maybe had been missing the several previous weeks? Was there more of a consistency? What just sort of like stuck out to you of how y'all got the job done?
I thought we didn't turn the ball over, which was number one, which was huge. I think even in those earlier games, there had been some really bright spots, but we were turning the ball over and not finishing drives. I thought we were better at that this game. I thought obviously in the red zone, we found ways to neutralize the loaded boxes and things like that to allow us to get points on the board, touchdowns, as opposed to settling for field goals. So I think those two things stood out the most.
You've been around quarterbacks a lot. What is it that JT has? He does seem to have a knack, you know, for finding the seam or whatever you want to call it when he's running.
Right.
What stands out to you about him just in that particular kind of 20-yard box there?
Yeah, I think you described it. He just kind of has a knack. You know, I don't know if you could put a finger on it or actually even describe it. He just has a way of fitting into where the holes are and reading the plays as he's running them. He's done a really good job doing that.
Do you know who your overtime quarterback would be?
My overtime?
Your overtime quarterback?
You would come up with a question like that.
Actually, it was a former player who texted me and wanted me to ask. I can't claim credit.
I haven't thought that. We haven't thought that far in advance. Let's just not go to overtime.
Yeah, play it by ear, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Tim, when you've got a lot of, you know, talented starters, then obviously, you know, backups to worry about getting the ball. When it comes to, you know, true freshmen and, you know, you've got obviously a lot of talented people who came in, is it tough to, you know, not be able to play them just because of the sheer number of people who are ahead of them on the depth chart? And, you know, what's kind of the long-term impact of that?
Yeah, sometimes that could be. You know, this was a group from last year's team, 2014 team, a lot of returners. That's not always going to be the case.
Right.
Because of that experience and guys coming back, it's harder maybe for a younger player to maybe break into the starting lineup. Certainly they could contribute. We have a number of guys contributing on special teams and or in playing time. at other positions. So I don't think it's impossible for them, but they do got to be patient. They got to learn. They got to keep working. You know, and I could attest to that because I've seen it for me coming in as a veteran coach, but to a new system, and just being patient and working hard and getting to know, understand the system better, and good things will eventually happen for
Tim,
are there like specific things you do to keep them engaged, either in like the film room or
Oh yeah,
practice?
yeah. They're involved in all the meetings and practice and all that. Yeah, absolutely.
Tim, Coach Meyer has said many times that he likes to like think on Thursday or Friday how many times he wants certain players to touch the ball. And I'm just wondering how many times do y'all, and he says he still does that, how many times do y'all revisit that list, you know, as a game goes on and stuff? Like, you know, he regretted not getting maybe Curtis Samuel and some other guys a few touches this week, but y'all got what you wanted from Braxton with Michael Thomas and things like that. But how often do you have that conversation, I guess, during a game?
Sometimes you do.
Yeah.
You know, again, the ultimate goal is to win and do what's best for the team. So I think Coach understands that, and with that in mind, those guys are going to help us win.
Yeah.
So we want to get them the ball, and a lot depends on, you know, just personnel and formations and what defenses are giving us, and you know who that is, because each guy kind of has their own special you know, situation that they're going to be involved in. So there's a lot that kind of goes into that. It's not as easy as just saying, hey, let's just get this guy the ball here.
And how close did, I guess, Saturday come to sort of like a mix y'all really have been wanting to see for a while? You know, I mean, obviously it wasn't against the world's greatest defense statistically, but how close did that come to sort of being what maybe you thought this offense might be about?
Yeah, I thought it was clicking better than it had been, for sure. And it was good balance and good inside run, outside run. The quarterback ran some. We completed balls to a lot of different people down the field, short, underneath. So I felt like it was a really good, coaches and everybody did a good job game planning, and our players went out and did a good job executing it.
Tim, we saw how effective JT was on Saturday. We'd seen him, you know, in the second week and the third week when he was in there for Cardale. Just how has JT played this year? Through camp, in the competition in August, what you've seen in games. You know, this is a guy who set records last year here and was 5th in the Heisman race. Like, how do you think JT's played?
I think JT's gotten a lot better every week. That's one thing about him. Maybe coming back from the injury, not going through spring, a little rusty initially. I felt maybe some pressure to try to do great every single time, to live up to those expectations and pressing a little bit. But I love the kid. I mean, I think the world of him, and he works extremely hard. I'm really proud of how he's handled this. It can't be easy, really, for both the guys. The way the media and the circus of this whole thing, I'm proud of them. I think they've done outstanding, and I think there's a lot of great things still ahead for both these guys. And the beautiful thing is they've not allowed all the distractions come between what's really important, which is their friendship and his football team.
With your role in play calling, as a guy who's new to the team, what kind of work did you put in the offseason, just familiarizing yourself with like the personnel, knowing who does what well, you know, what works best with the offense, you know, because you've got, you know, probably 20 different, you know, playmakers to learn about. Yeah,
you know, and that was a big part of it, and learning all of it. I mean, just learning the system, how to get those guys the ball, not just who they are and what they're good at, but how to get them. An enormous amount of time spent on that.
I'm sorry, I'm wondering if you could just talk about the importance of touch in the red zone. It feels like a lot of people are trying to simplify this red zone thing as well. JT runs it a little bit better, but you've also got to throw into some tighter spots and have touch on some of those throws. I'm not sure if we've seen a true fade to the corner of the end zone, for example, but I know JT can make that throw.
Right.
I'm just wondering if you could kind of break that down a little
bit. You're right. In the red zone, the windows are smaller, things happen faster. So you got to anticipate those throws. You got to put them in areas where our guys can get them and nobody else, because obviously there's less space and less room for a receiver to work. So that obviously becomes a big part of it. And I feel like what happens is when you establish a presence to be able to have a dual threat guy back there, sometimes it changes the coverages, which now allows more single one-on-one type things as opposed to trying to fit in tight zone windows.
How was JT after the Northern Illinois game when he played that whole second half. He had some good drives in there, but you guys didn't score a lot of points. Maybe the last 8 drives with him in there. You know, that was maybe his chance to get in there and show what he could do. He didn't look exactly like we saw him last year.
Right.
What was that week like after that with him? Was he down at all? Did he feel like he missed an opportunity? What?
You'd probably have to ask him. I didn't sense that.
Okay.
I think that he comes to work every day here and just works hard, and he trusts the coaching staff, and whatever he feels like is best for the football team is what he does.
Did he miss an opportunity there though? Because y'all replaced Cardale with him in the second quarter and then stayed with him in the second half.
Yeah.
If you understand where I'm going there, I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that it was. I don't know that. Just Cardale wasn't seeing things real well in that game, and made a couple errors, and not just the interceptions. There was a couple other things that took place, and the initial thought was just, let's just settle them down. And JT moved us when he first got in there. I think we went right down and scored in the first series, so we felt like there was some momentum there, and we were going to stay with them and see what happened. But I don't know that it was ever there was any intent to, you know, this is let's see what happens and go from there. I don't feel like that was the case.
Coach, one of the quick, Michael Thomas, you've been around football for a long time. Michael Thomas, what stands out about him as a receiver? You know, a lot of guys don't have that, for want of another word, knack of coming back for the ball, or being aggressive to the ball, the thrown ball, and things like that. But just as you've watched him this year,
you know,
as new eyes, you know.
The thing that probably impresses me most about Mike, a couple things. One, how hard he works in practice. I mean, he tries to perfect his craft like nobody I've seen, and he enjoys playing the game. He loves playing the game, and every day is a good day for Mike when he's out on the field. And you love being around guys like that, man. I mean, they just make you smile because he's going to work his tail off, and he loves playing the game.